Welcome back to this month's Roundtable, your all-in-one comprehensive view of what's happening across the real estate industry, straight from some of the industry's earliest technology adopters and foremost experts in marketing, brokerage, government policy, capital construction, and cybersecurity. As always, this is a three-part show, introductions and what's new for each of our Roundtable hosts in their business sector. Part two, we unpack, focus in on the month's biggest news and paradigm shifts. In part three, what does that mean for your real estate business and what can you do to outpace your competition in the next 30 days? I'm Andreas Senie, founder CRECollaborative, brokerage owner EST Properties, and technology growth strategist. And joining me this month is not only 7,000 plus tune-ins and downloads monthly, with over 5,100 of you here in America, just shy of 900 in Europe, 1,100 plus in Asia, 100 in Africa, 300 South America, and just north of 50 in Australia, is none other than Dan Wagner and Saul Klein. But before we jump to that, I want to take a moment of silence as I bring them in for none other than Barbara Ann Wagner, born December 24th, 1932, who passed May 29th, 2026, without whom Dan Wagner and his 6 siblings would not be here. And I'm blessed to have Dan here. And I'm sure those who knew her are blessed to know her. Dan, thank you. Saul, thank you. Our audience, thank you. Do a quick moment of silence. All right. And with that, Dan, you must go first because now I put you on the spot.
Oh my gosh.
For being here. You've got all this going on.
Yes. I got to tell you, I want to thank you so much for that moment of silence. And it's been pretty amazing. We're up to 7,000 people watching us. I will have to tell you that on social media, I've had some of our wonderful listeners reach out to me on social media, on LinkedIn, and express their condolences. And I was blown out of the water. I just want to thank you all for your wonderful thoughts and prayers for my mom. I'm the baby of 7, and my mom had Alzheimer's, so she had memory care, and about 5.5 years she's been in memory care. And for her to pass away at 93 and a half, she was ready to go. And her true self is very happy she's in heaven right now. So I'm a firm believer in that. But thank you for your thoughts and prayers. So everybody has a mom, and it's not an easy thing to lose one. But after you have Alzheimer's, people know that it's that long goodbye. So it's been a long, long goodbye, and it's now a celebration of life.
100%. Thank you again for being here. And Saul, welcome back. Thank you. Nice to have you as well. I'm stunned. I'm not stunned. I am overjoyed to hear that our audience not only reached out with condolences and tunes in and rates and reviews us, but that's pretty amazing, right? You never know how strong your family is, extended family.
100%.
Well, Saul, now the moment's to you. Saul.
What's that?
You've got to top that. You're next.
Yeah.
Well, we can't. 6 siblings, Dan. That's incredible. And she corralled all of you, and here you are today.
What's wild is she was pregnant 10 times. The baby before me was stillborn, and back in the 60s, nobody talked or acknowledged it. It's like nobody would say anything. And with everything in life, things are so much more open and more positive for everybody and working together. But she had 22 grandkids and 25 great-grandkids. And mom and dad got divorced after 20-some years. And the last time she was in the workforce, she was using manual typewriters. And then she had to jump into electric typewriters and then computers. And she became in charge of the Central Illinois Federal Jury System District. And one fun little quick story about mom. I never knew how powerful a federal judge was. And when mom was impaneling a grand juror sent a letter saying negatively why he's not coming in using foul language. She showed that to the federal judge, and he got a warrant for this person's arrest with the U.S. Marshal, went to the guy's house on Christmas Eve day and brought him in to the court on my mom's birthday. He had to publicly apologize to my mom. And I'm like, Mom, you mean a federal judge has that kind of power? And she said, oh, yes, a federal judge does. So that's a little fun story about my mom.
Well, the passing aside, it is also America's 250th birthday this year.
Yes.
So speaking of times and things changing and from resilience to optimism, depression, resilience, optimism again, here in 2026, we're back to a moment of optimism in the commercial real estate industry, right? Forecast, housing market, investment activity, we are rising here, especially in Connecticut, roughly mid-teens as far as percentages in 2026, matching prior periods, improving prior periods here in Connecticut. I'm going to get inland to move to Connecticut. It's my goal, right? Eventually. Capital markets are thawing. Disciplined investors are out there making moves. The flight to quality has occurred. So the buildings remaining, those office buildings, we're doing a lot of conversions. There's just a lot happening everywhere. If you know where to look. Speaking of a lot happening, Chris Abel couldn't make it today. Rebekah is away as well, and Darren are all out at events, conference season, and so on. So with that, what's the latest and greatest out of California, Saul, now that I'm easing away into it?
Well, the sun is shining and the temperature is moderate. And as we say in San Diego, night and morning low clouds along the coast. And so, but you hear people say this all the time, real estate's local. And it doesn't matter what you see with regard to national trends. What you really got to do is check out what's going on in your particular market. And so, San Diego, I'm fortunate to live in a place that a lot of people would like to be able to live. And so the market, good times, bad times, it's always a pretty good market, even in those periods of time when we had exorbitant interest rates and nationwide we had lots of foreclosures and we had lots of people teaching foreclosure classes around the country. It was hard to find a foreclosure in San Diego that was worthwhile. So it's all depends on where you are. And we're fortunate to have a great market. But you mentioned the 250th birthday. I don't know if you can see this. I have trouble with that. You can't see. There you go.
Yeah.
So this is a bumper sticker. And the United States Navy back in 1976, which was the bicentennial, changed the Union Jack. And the Union Jack, I wish I can't get it all. The Union Jack, if you ever look at a Navy ship, it's got two flags. It's got the ensign, which is the stars and stripes. And then it has what's called the Union Jack. And the Union Jack is just the blue background with the stars on it. And for 1776, they changed that to the Don't Tread on Me Union Jack. And I happened to be, at that time, I was on a commissioning crew putting a new Spruance class destroyer, which was the first computerized ships in the Navy. I was putting one of those ships in commission, fifth ship of the class, and we weren't commissioned until 1977. But I wanted to get one of these Union Jacks that had the snake on it, and I couldn't get one. But I did get this bumper sticker. It's kind of like I got this T-shirt, right? I did get this bumper sticker, and I've had it since 1976.
Well, Saul, thank you for your service. I forgot that you were a veteran. That's terrific. What years did you serve?
I was in from 68 to 78.
Okay. Wow. Oh, wow. That's a long time.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But 68 to 10 years is a long time, though.
Doesn't seem like 50 years, but hey, what's happened to real estate values in the last 50 years, right?
Yes. Yep.
You can, if you live it and own it long enough, it will go up in value. That's the beauty, right? Pockets of profitability, or rather pathways to profitability, depending on where your market is and what you're doing. Speaking of service, Dan, I think you're up at the end of your term on the chair of Illinois Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
Safe, but thank you for all you do for us and the 1031 exchange.
Thank you. Thank you. So the Illinois Chamber of Commerce it's been just an incredible experience. So I've been chair the last 2 years, and then next week I passed the gavel to Tony Reinhardt with Ford Motor Company. So he's going to take over for me from Ford. And, it's so much fun to be part of the organization that has Caterpillar and Ford and John Deere and State Farm Insurance. I mean, just, Union Pacific, all these different groups. And it's fun to represent commercial real estate, because under all of these buildings, and all these manufacturing plants, what is there? The land. Under all is the land. And it everything comes back to real estate. And like you said, Andreas, the values can go down, but eventually they're going to go up because, as we know, they're not making real estate anymore. So eventually, when the market shifts and things go down, they're going to go back up. It's just how long you can hold it to be able to go back up.
And where you are when it does. Look at the Saul's Car Wash that we've made famous. I'm going to single-handedly say that we made it famous, and we got it all the renown it has today. But Saul, you went from the Navy to selling houses, owning houses, building houses, and then walking and talking in and out of every MLS to what it is today.
Yeah, well, I got into technology. So again, I was on the first class of ships that were computerized. And so I had, and the military is like 10 to 15 years when it comes to use of technology ahead of the commercialization of that technology. And so I was fortunate to be on a ship and be in the service at the time when they were conditioning us to become computer users, not to be able to program and not to be able to take the hardware apart and put it back together, but become comfortable at utilizing the technology. And so in the classes that I took at the Naval Academy, the instructors included computer use, which, by the way, didn't have a video screen. It had a paper readout at the time. So we all got used to it. And that the ship that I was on that was computerized, this is an interesting story. I was a navigator. So I was assigned to be the navigator, and we were taught at that time, don't trust anything but what you see. You have radar and you have other tools, but you can't trust that over what you can see. And so we commissioned the ship in January, like 22nd of 1977 in Pascagoula, Mississippi. And again, I was the navigator, and we headed out into the Gulf of Mexico is what we called it back then, into the Gulf of America. And we patrolled around out there on our way to the Panama Canal so we could cross through and come up to San Diego. Well, as a navigator, what you have to know how to do is you have to know how to celestial navigation, because once you're out of sight of land, then you're reliant on your capability to navigate via the stars and the sun and the moon. And we all had that skill. But when this ship had this computer system on it that there were only 2 satellites in the sky at the time. It took into consideration satellite passes. It took into consideration the course and speed, that's called dead reckoning, the course and speed the ship was on, the wind direction and the speed of the wind. And it also took something called an omega fix, which is a radio fix every 11 seconds. And then there was an algorithm. I didn't know what that was at the time. There was this algorithm that would give different weights to these different data sources. And you could push one button on the bridge to give you latitude and longitude. You push a button, boom. Now, before that, you had to shoot stars, take angles, have a stopwatch, enter publications to come up with an approximation of where you were. So when we launched the ship and we headed out into the Gulf of Mexico, it was overcast. So it's overcast, you can't shoot stars, and you can't take moon lines, and you can't take sun lines. And it was overcast like for 3 weeks. And so I had to depend on technology. I had to depend on when I push the button, it gives me a latitude and longitude. I have to believe that's what it is because I didn't have anything better.
Wow.
And so it was faith in the technology. And the night we were supposed to arrive at the Panama Canal, my roommate had the watch. And as he went up to the bridge to stand the watch, I said, okay, at this particular time, because a navigator's night orders, at this particular time, you're going to pick up Cristobal light. And it's going to have this kind of sequence. And you'll know at this time. And at this time, if you don't see that light, call me because we're lost.
Well, he saw the light, right?
He saw the light. He called me, and I was very happy that the technology proved itself to us.
Well, that's training and tactics, right? And technology accelerated said tactics. And 10 years later, commercial real estate caught up. The military is 15 years ahead of commercialization. The real estate world's 10 years behind the consumer facing one. Well, used to be so.
When you think about the real estate market, I tell people, think about a person walking up a flight of stairs with a yo-yo.
Are we the yo-yo or the person tripping over
the yo-yo? Yeah, remember what a yo-yo is, right?
Yeah.
Right. So they're walking up the flight of stairs with the yo-yo. So sometimes the yo-yo's down and sometimes the yo-yo's up. But at the end of the day, you're at the top of the stairs. And even when the yo-yo's down, it's higher than it was when you were halfway up the stairway. So you just kind of keep in mind that the market's going to have its ups and downs. But if you stay with it long enough, you'll do fine.
That's disciplined investors, tactics, tech, right? Moving through. Inland continues to grow year on year because it's a disciplined investor.
Yeah.
It's a disciplined developer. The realtors that are in it continue to grow. Now, if I recall, Saul, San Diego, the MLS, how are things coming there?
Yeah, well, so it's really interesting. We don't call them members, we call them subscribers and participants, but our number is very consistent. Right. And I know at our association, which is right across the parking lot from our building, is the orientations every month are full. So while people might be dropping out of the business, people continue to get into the business. And, this is one of those things that doesn't take a lot of capital to go into business. There is a lot of turnover. A lot of people fail, but a lot of people make it. And Dan and I and Andreas, we know people who've been at this for many years and do very well over time.
Well, and Saul, I think the people that do well, because I know we've talked about this many times, and the three of us are all big believers in the realtor model, where you have the three-way agreement where you join and you're a member of the local, state, national organization. That's probably the most important thing that I could ever say to anybody who wants to get into the business, is that you are going to sharpen iron with iron by joining a realtor organization. And while it might sound counterintuitive, like these people are your competitors, they really are folks that are going to help you be in the industry and do well. Because if we have people who are living by our code of ethics, because that is differentiates us from just the average person in this business, those code of ethics and what we live by is everything. And if you have people learning, and I know, Saul, with your experience, you learned a lot with different committees and things from the realtors years ago. I think you said you were on some original committees talking about the MLS, right?
Yeah, so there's definitely, in my mind, great benefit in participating in organized real estate. And you mentioned the three-way agreement, and that's important because a lot of people don't realize exactly what that is. And what that means is when you join, when you gain the right to call yourself a realtor, you have to belong at the local, state, and national level. You can't just join at the local and not participate at the state or at the national. You can't join the national and not participate at the state or the local. So it's a three-way agreement. You join one, you join them all. They all bring different types of benefits. My state association brings probably one of the primary values is legal forums and forms, because the industry changes so much and the forms change so much, and you get access to this great expertise because you're a member of the state association. At the local level, there's great education and legislative or city council advocacy. And at the at the national level, and you're very familiar with this, Dan, there's great advocacy for things that most people don't think about. Right. And so many of the people we know, they benefit from the efforts at the local, state, and national level, but they don't pay for those benefits other than their dues.
Right.
And we're always trying to raise money for the realtor party, which is the color purple, as opposed to the color red and the color blue, right?
Oh, 100%. We're the realtor party. We're one of the only organizations that's left in America where people from the left and people from the right all join arms to walk into Washington together, because we all believe in private property rights, and all these people are having to kill what they eat, and that makes you on either side, that helps to bring people together. And when you are boots on the ground in all these different communities, people are aware of what needs to get done. And that's the thing that I love. One of the things I love the most. People are surprised. I've had my realtor license or my real estate license and been a realtor since 2004. But, Dan Wagner has never shown a house. I've never listed a property because I work for this big, we're probably one of the largest commercial real estate companies involved with NAR. I think I know, pretty much know that for a fact. And the amount of work and help that we have gotten as a corporation has been just phenomenal. And when we talk about the three-way agreement locally, we had different towns where they were trying to hold us up for trying to get more money out of a deal or whatever. We're able to work with our government affairs directors at the local level to be able to say, no, that's not legal. And so we have the realtors there. We have at the state level, at the national level, of course, the 1031 Like-Kind Exchange has been huge because of the federal political coordinators that exist among NAR. And Shannon McGann, thank you so much for all of your hard work saving our real estate industry every day. She stands in the breach with all of the staff at the National Association, but for our locals, our state. I mean, Saul, you have the craziest world out in California, right? You've had some legislation that your realtor association has been fighting.
It's nuts. It's really nuts. So you bring up a great point, and all of us are real passionate on this, and that's private property and private property rights. And it's, if you read the whole preamble to the Code of Ethics, it's actually inspirational, right? So not only under all is the land, but it's the way we take care of the land, that we're custodians of the land. And what makes this country, to me, one of the things that makes it so great is the ability for anybody to own real estate and the rights that you have, the private property rights. And I see those private property rights eroding, and here in California and in many other places. And we have to do everything we can to fight these ideas that the society benefits when we take private property rights away from people, because it's just the opposite. And when it's never been proven that rent control, as an example, benefits anybody. And so when private property rights are stripped from property owners, the society suffers.
100%. Oh my gosh. Yeah, especially like you look at the mom and pop landlords, and they're paying the taxes, they're fixing up the buildings, and then all of a sudden a politician comes in and says, "Oh, we need rent control." I mean, how are those poor people supposed to be able to take care of this property? Then all of a sudden, when you have rent control, you start creating tenement housing. I mean, people aren't able to afford to upgrade the place where they live. So that there's so many aspects of that, it blows your mind. A lot of elected officials all have good intentions, but it's really our job at the real estate world to be the bucket of cold water to throw it on them, to say, look, this is what you're really doing. And that's, Andreas, when you're out there developing, there's got to be a million different zoning rules that you've run into, and there's got to be a couple crazy ones that you've experienced too, right?
Absolutely, right? Not in my backyard, or yes, in my backyard, more aptly put. The reality is, I say this often, Shelton here in Connecticut should be the model municipality for the country. It's well-run government in partnership, public partnership with corporations, with developers, moratoriums on development outside of downtown to redevelop downtown. Saul, you mentioned the Navy, and I think of the Navy and the adoption and that force and that number of people. And then we switch over to NAR and I go, well, that force, that number, that adoption, that forward thinking. Left to our own devices, making a mistake, the Realtor Code of Ethics licensure here in the U.S. is the envy of the world. So developers, sales, it doesn't matter. We have something to fall back on. We have use cases. We have case studies, all brought to us by NAR, all brought to us by other municipalities and those who we're with. And NAR, like ULI, CCIM, obviously smaller ones, more niche, but NAR is the gateway to all of them. I didn't know you were licensed in 2004, Dan. I was licensed in 2007, and I grew up in this business, third generation. And it's all I've ever done. And I've always been impressed with how NAR operates and what they do. And from the development side, having the legal line to call, the 1031 exchange. We're in the largest transfer of generational wealth in our history as humankind. That's not possible without the DST, without regulation, without everything we have. We're lucky enough to enjoy here in the States. And while the craziest zoning story I'll give you is not mine, but it's a local developer, and it took him 3 years to get his strip center, his grocery anchored center approved because, well, not in his backyard. A neighbor came up and found an endangered frog. Well, that frog is now the logo, and that center did get built, but it took a lot of time and money and effort. So zoning, regulation, transaction, routine, repeat, pathways to profitability, that's all made possible by walking the trail that others have set before me. So I'm thankful for NAR and everything that's been done there.
So I want to give you an example of, see, I'm not as nice as Dan when it comes to giving the politicians the benefit of the doubt. Kept saying that they're well intentioned, because I don't necessarily believe that. But that aside, we had on the election day was yesterday, right? And we had a proposal in San Diego on the ballot that if you don't live in your house half of the year, then you will have a minimum $8,000 a year tax because it's a second home.
Wow.
And the idea was this is going to encourage people to put their properties on the market. That'll increase the supply of housing, and that will bring prices down. Well, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard of. And if you really want to bring prices down, you build more. You don't make these artificial. And who are these people that come up with these ideas that, hey, if you have a second home, well, good for you. But if you're not there half of the year, then we're going to throw an extra $8,000 because we, the politicians, believe that that's going to increase the availability of rental properties. And that's the dumbest thing one of the dumbest things I ever heard of.
Oh my gosh. Unbelievable.
But it was defeated. It was defeated.
It happens everywhere, right? They took away the market's ability to choose where to put continued care facilities here in Connecticut, right? As simple as that. We need more continued care, and we need to place it where it's needed most, or at least as close to where it's needed most. And here in Connecticut, we can't do that. But at the same time, the flip side is there are other regulations, opportunity zones. There's the maritime funds that are now available, right? There's yin and yang, good and bad. Hence, we're purple.
And people are talking about, and we've talked about this for a while, the idea of walkability. And really because the land is such a great part of the expense of property, you can't have, like they call it, McMansions anymore. You really need to densify. And a lot of people in Southern California, they hate that idea. But what happens is if you can build more units on that land, the land cost per unit goes down, and that will help drive affordability. And then something else people don't think of, if you've got more people living in a condensed area, then your police protection is less expensive.
Yeah.
Your fire protection is less expensive. And if it's walkable, then people will not drive as much. So the atmosphere the environment will be cleaner. So all these things happen based on the way you use the land. And of course, land use primarily controlled by police power, zoning.
Affordability is the talking point that happens. Not to get into debates and policies, right? What needs to happen is a reduction in friction, right? We need to be able to develop more, even where it's allowed today, let alone where it's not allowed. Mayor Caroline Simmons, she took the zoning process in the city of Stamford from 2 years for permitting approval, down to 3 months, right? So while, yes, nothing is affordable, I hear that all day. Reduce the costs of it, like you said, on the land and on the development side and on the taxation, then you'll see affordability, right? Cascade effect. Sorry, Dan, go ahead.
No, just a whole bunch of different things come to mind. The idea of zoning, and then you get into building codes, and then you get other folks that have these ideas of, we need to have, X, Y, and Z added to the building code, and that increases the cost of our affordability of building things. And so we have to remind elected officials of that as well. When they want to increase any government idea of what could help the government out better and tax, they forget that people say, oh my gosh, my property taxes are so high. Well, they get high because the politicians are spending the money. In order to not have high property taxes, the politicians don't spend the money. And that is the key to it all. But the idea that you're going to, I know in different parts of Chicago, where there's in commercial real estate areas, you have some costs in Inglewood and other areas that are underserved, where those properties don't have really any place else to get money from for the schools in that area. They're charging so much for taxes that you can't even, the value of the building isn't worth to pay the taxes. So they're giving the buildings up. So those things are real important of what government can do to the property owner for commercial real estate. But I will say the other positive thing that I've seen the government does is protect their citizens. And I will tell you, we're here in Oak Brook, Illinois, and Oak Brook is, I think we have the highest per capita of license plate readers. And I think I might have mentioned this before, but we have the third best mall in America. And the Oak Brook Center is phenomenal. We have this incredible system where they now have a drone where it's connected with all the license plate readers. And I was watching this in real time where a person who stole a car drove into the mall parking lot. The drone sensed that, got the information, zoomed up like 400 feet in the air, flew 50 miles an hour over to the mall. And while I was watching in the police chief's office, this whole big computer system and screens, I watched 3 different police cars unmarked that came into the parking lot and surrounded that car, and they were able to arrest that person. And to have that kind of money put into defending the citizens of our area and keeping people safe is worth its weight in gold. And that's where you have the third best mall in America. That's one of the reasons why, is because our local community puts a lot of money into protecting that private property, which is a beautiful mall. And of course, people think twice before coming out from Chicago to want to do anything negative in stealing from the mall. So you can see what government can do. It can be really a proactive, positive force to help business, or it can tax, and then not pay attention to what they're taxing. And it really causes people just to turn over the keys and say, I can't run my business anymore because I'm getting charged too much in taxes. So all those things are super related. And that's where, again, the 3-way agreement, working at the local, state, national level, we have really good staff that are able to wake up these elected officials. I have to be nicer than Saul is, but
I thought Saul was going to say that they're all uninformed, and that's why these things happen. But we hit a middle ground. We are in pretty heavily taxed states, but the economy is a shark. It's a fish. It has to keep going. It has to keep moving. And on the brokerage side, people get bigger, people get smaller. There's always fresh blood out there. New opportunity, as long as you're ready, willing, and able to learn. Look at the data center world, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
We're working on 3 of these deals now. And you want affordability? Maybe the moon will be affordable in a decade, 2 decades. I don't know, honestly. I do know that, at least in our market, retail is going strong. The malls, not so much, but standalone retail, strip centers, and so on, and housing, of course. Dogs, continued care, diapers, daycare. Those are recession-proof. They make money regardless of regulation, regardless of the economy. In California, car washes all day, every day. So I love it. But as far as Big Brother and the tech, as I tell my team and my clients, zoning is carrot and stick and time. You've got the time and the money. The great carrot is to improve the put in a police station, put in an ambulance, right? Give those things to the town, give them to the city. Don't be the developer that shows up on an 830G, which is the affordable bypass local zoning to get it done. There is community development, and then there is breed, right? I'm lucky enough that EAC not lucky enough. We have been intentional in that EAC works on win-win-win transactions. And so that's who I surround myself with. Look at you guys, right? None of you are out there destroying a town for reaping a benefit that you didn't earn or do. We're all very careful, as is Inlet, where they invest. So.
Well, I want to highlight a couple of things that for people to think about is the data centers are a big deal. We had kind of the Wild West where all of a sudden data centers started popping up, and now there's a big pushback against data centers from, at least in our area, I know. People are worried about water, they're worried about their own electrical rates, and so on and so forth. So I know that in Illinois, downtown Chicago, where there used to be the big steel plants, steel mills, they're putting in quantum computing, which our governor deserves credit for making that happen. That was a big deal. And quantum computing, if you've looked into it, it deals with cryogenics and really freezing the computer systems to almost zero. And that's one of the aspects of the quantum computing. And we're really needing in Illinois much more power. And when you have different areas that were scheduled and slated to put in these data centers, and all of a sudden they're getting canceled. I think I highlighted before in a suburb outside of Chicago, Naperville, there was a developer that bought this old office complex and tore it down and thought it was going to be a no-brainer, and it was stopped by the NIMBYs. And now that person is moving to a different state to go out and look at be able to put in a data center. But overall, our data centers, we need more, and the possibility of looking at little nuclear power plants that are going to be just for a data center, or peaker power plants just for data centers. I think those are really big issues in the marketplace right now.
Sure. Well, look, Henrico County, Virginia, $60 million unbudgeted funds. That's tax revenue from data centers went directly to an affordable housing trust fund.
It's a great point.
But put it in, support it, and then take that revenue and help make homes more affordable.
Yeah,
that's where I sit. Just don't put me next to it.
It is amazing, though. These are big deals. All that's a big deal. And I did want to mention, before I forget about it, in regards to legislation that's passed, the opportunity zones are really exciting. And right now, we're waiting for the governors to come up with the tracks of the opportunity zones that'll be coming out, and hopefully they'll start coming out by July 1st. But that's going to be a really big deal for developers. And you should know that they made an extra incentive in rural areas where you get an extra incentive for your investors if you are developing apartments or things like that in rural areas, opportunity zones. So opportunity zones are a great thing for our future. And I know that that's something that Inland is very engaged in, and our investors really have liked that experience. So wait to see coming up what the new opportunity zones tracks are going to be. And those are important for all of us to be aware of, because that's an extra incentive for development.
To get back to this idea of nuclear power, because we shot ourselves in the foot years ago with nuclear power. And so, I live in San Diego. We're a Navy town. We probably got at any point in time 10, 15 nuclear power submarines in San Diego Bay. They've all got reactors on them. You've had hundreds of these submarines over the years. We probably had 30 nuclear powered aircraft carriers over the years. We've got nuclear surface ships. We've got all of these nuclear power plants that actually, when those ships are back in the States, they're in highly populated areas. Nobody complains about that. You don't see accidents. You see, it's a very reliable source of energy. But we got this idea years ago that it wasn't any good, probably from Chernobyl and a couple other accidents, right?
3 Mile Island. Yeah, remember that?
3 Mile Island, that it's not safe. Well, the fact is, if you look at the record of the military, it's very safe. And it gives us a capability to generate the power we need to be able to push ourselves into the future. So always have been an advocate for nuclear power. And I think maybe we're on the path to get back. But then, of course, Bernie Sanders, he wants to tax 50% of the AI or whatever, right? So you've always got the politicians who think that that they don't ever think about cutting expenses or being more efficient. What they think about is taxes. And so that's one of the problems or issues I have with real estate, because everybody thinks all the money's in real estate. So if you can't get the money from anywhere else, who are you going to get it from? Property owners.
Right.
And that's why we need organized real estate to be able to push back against these ignorant, misinformed forces that think that the way to prosperity is to take away from property owners.
Well, and I'm proud to be. I just finished up, and I'm going to hit the second level of Hall of Fame. I've donated in my lifetime now up to $50,000 to RPAC, and I put my money where my mouth is. It's a really important thing to do for folks, and that President's Circle is another one. I mean, the realtors, I'm sure, go just talk to your realtor leaders, and they'll be glad to tell you how you can be investing in real estate. So that's an important thing too.
And even if you can't invest your money at this stage of your career, invest your time. Get involved.
Yes.
Right. There's so many ways to be involved. The reality is, Saul, you're twice now. You've gone to the international conference, or 3 times, for the MLS. NAR is in fact the envy of the world. The U.S. licensure, right, for real estate is the envy of the world, and we are lucky enough to have it. So to have it, you've got to support it.
Well, and let me highlight a couple other aspects of that, because you bring up a really good point. So there's the Realtor Land Institute. So I'm a member of the Realtors Land Institute, RLI. And what they do is that they're the land brokers. They are ranchers and farmers. They're the ones that sell ranch land and all the big open space land. And you can actually get a designation where you get additional, a designation where you take classes to learn about the land and how to be a good RLI, be a good land broker. Then you have this other
As
group
opposed
called,
to ULI. Sorry, couldn't help it. Go ahead.
Then you also have CCIM. CCIM, I call them like the Green Berets of commercial real estate. It's the cost is, I think it's about $15,000 or a little bit, something like that. But it's like a mini little MBA, which you'll learn and grow, and you become an expert in this business. And when I highlight you become an expert, it's not like I can Dan Wagner, because I've never sold anything, so I can't actually get these designations because you have to have a certain level. Like I think it's CCM is up to 10 million that you've had to be able to sell to get that designation. RLI is a similar kind of thing. And those are important aspects to give you those credentials to wake people up. There's also the SIOR of dealing with the office building and dealing with the warehousing. I mean, those are important things. And then besides those professional designations, you also have organizations within the association like NAREP, the National Alliance of Hispanic Professionals. You have the Dearborn Realtists. Those are that's the African American group that you can be involved in. The Women's Council of Realtors. I mean, you name it. There's something for everybody, and it's an important thing for people to be aware of. YPN brings together the young, brand new folks in the industry, and it's just a really great way for people to learn about how to get engaged with their trade. And boy, what I love about this industry, by the way, is it has helped so many people gain wealth. There's folks that I know that have, they just weren't successful in one of their areas of life, and you have a single mom that is just desperate to try to find something that's going to be able to take care of her family and profession. And by God, they become experts in real estate, and they are able to go and make a living and be very successful in this business. It's across the board. It doesn't matter where you come from. It's America. You can come from anywhere, and you can become an expert in this business. And the proof's in the pudding, the people that hire you. And that's a really important thing to remember.
It's funny. Whenever I teach or I train new agents or I'm talking to my team, and you're right, CCIM being the gold standard, the technology that exists, and all the groups. But, Sue, you guys can't see it here, but Sue, my grandmother, my hero, one of the first female commercial brokers in the Northeast, She had to literally go out, get a pilot's license, rent a plane, fly the plane to find property to string it together.
Wow.
And I just type on a keyboard and go to Google Earth. And I have associations, and I have the ability to find the associations. So there are as many associations as there are specialties at this point. And at least here on the commercial side, as we don't have an MLS, quote unquote, right? The access to that off-market deal flow, CCIMs, the SIORs, that network. To your point, Dan, even if you weren't born into it and you don't know the right people, you can go meet them, join the association, get introduced, and start working your way forward. I can't think of any other industry that works more hand in hand to get it done. At least the realtors that are around and continue to be around, I should say.
Well, there's bad apples in every industry, right? And we have a system of professional development and also a professional. Help me out, Sal. What's it called? Where we are able to go and if there's somebody that you run into a bad actor, you can actually
bad actor check. Forewarn. If you pay for NAR, at least here in Connecticut, you have forewarn is something that's given to you. And that is a background check. That is a credit check. It does a bunch of not a credit check. It tells you if someone has been foreclosed on, is in collections, and whether or not they're an axe murderer, as an example. Right?
Well, but from professional to professional, if I run into a bad actor as a realtor, I'm able to. I don't have to go to court. I can go to our association, and our association will analyze it, and there'll be actually a hearing, and the person could be fined thousands of dollars if they've done something wrong.
The ethics board. You're talking about the ethics board. And my wife sat on the board. And again, envy of the world. We have vehicles to protect us, to advance us, and to do this business. Right?
And so, it's interesting, Andreas, because you're right. We have number one, we have license laws.
Yeah.
And in most places in the world, they don't have license laws when it comes to real estate. We take for granted they're going to go get your real estate license. Well, license law, that's the foundation of all of this. And so we have license law. We also have developed over the years business practices and business culture that is not the same around the world. We've developed the use of exclusive contracts and all the benefits that come with exclusive contracts to list properties for sale. So when we talk about multiple listing services, it's built upon this foundation of licensing and ethics and rules, right? Doesn't just happen. And then business rules and consistent contracts and exclusive contracts to sell property. And as of late, contracts with buyers. And you go to other places in the world, they don't have that. And so to take MLS, it really takes a forward thinker in a country like Romania, let's say, to understand and want to take on the existing methodology for listing and selling real estate and bring MLS to that particular country. And yet we have people around the world that want to do this, but it's not an easy thing to do because it's layered, starting with license law.
Well, Saul, what happens if someone with your MLS, if somebody tries to put in false information on a property, they lie? What do you do?
Well, we can school them, or we can fine them, or we can throw them out based on the severity of the infraction. And we depend upon, so it's interesting. We use artificial intelligence to find out if people are breaking the rules with regard to fair housing violations that they might intentionally or unintentionally include in a description. And so we have artificial intelligence that'll go out and scan and find those I call them errors and mistakes or violations. Yeah. Well, whether or not we find them kind of depends on their history. Have they done it before? How long have they been in the business? And if we can school them, teach them what's wrong, and we don't have that infraction again, then we believe we've won. So we don't go out and fine just to fine. And we don't see fines as a revenue stream, although it does provide a little bit of revenue to the MLS. If we can, we avoid the fining. But there's ways for us to discipline. And it's important that we do that because the trusted source is the MLS. The MLS and the data in the MLS is so valuable. Think of all the people that depend upon the accuracy of the MLS data. The agents depend on it. The brokers depend on it. The appraisers depend on it. The lenders depend on it. The secondary money market, when they buy loans, and the housing finance system, what makes home ownership possible. They all depend on this database that's accurate and up to date and timely. And that's what MLS provides. And even in the world where things, and I know you're kind of pointing to this, Andreas, where it's changing dramatically because of litigation and legislation and regulation and consolidation and innovation, all of these things that are now bearing down on the real estate industry. MLSs have to look at what they do and realize that the value comes in being able to maintain that database that's the single source of truth and the first point of entry. And when you look at all of these different sites that are battling and these brokerage firms that are battling one another today, you realize that they all depend upon the data that they get from the MLS.
Yes.
So that they can create the business model that they've created, right?
Right. 100%.
The only not in contrast, but then in parallel, and this is a hat tip to the MLS, right? As a single point of entry as to a Bloomberg terminal. Commercial real estate in parallel, even here in the US, doesn't have that. You have all these listing portals that don't dedupe, they don't remove duplicate listings, they don't have data verification, they don't have a 72-hour rule, and so on and so forth. The closest thing is CoStar, which has people physically calling and verifying. But to the bad actor statement, not that there are many out there, but there are some. There are those that will say, yeah, of course it's active, when it's not. Today, so many of my clients today find LoopNet and other systems, and I go, half the stuff on there is already gone. That's a marketing tool. That's not an MLS where there's accuracy built in, right? So, to your point, I wasn't pointing at it, but I was. Now that you brought it up, the MLS, and I can't wait for you to pioneer this. I want to get paid for the data I input because as a broker, I have the newest, most credible data and market intelligence in existence. And as a commercial broker, I don't give it away. As a residential broker, they just log it all in and then it gets sold and resold. Sorry, I know that's a show.
No, it's a good point because people think that there's always this debate. Who owns the data? So the seller thinks that they own the data. The agent that takes the listing thinks that they own the data. The fact is that the information around a single listing isn't worth anything. It's not the individual information that's valuable. It's the compilation of that information that's valuable.
Great point.
Right. So yeah, your listing, well, you expect to get paid for your listing. Well, not unless we can get everybody else's listing, unless we can then create a national footprint. And with that data then becomes valuable. And you're right, Andreas, I'd love to get to this point where we could actually start paying people for the data that they put into the MLS and pay them per field. And there's many things that we'll be able to do in the next couple of years with MLS data, provided we can get forward enough thinking. And one of the issues that we've had in organized real estate for years is oftentimes our volunteers who participate at the association level and participate in governance at the MLS level, they don't understand that the MLS has to look more like a business and less like an association. And it needs to be able to move fast, and it needs to be able to make decisions. And having a board of directors that don't know anything or very little about the technology and about the data contracts, to let those people be the people that make the decisions, often points us down the wrong street.
Gutting the real estate and overtaxing, but I'm with you. We're already at the top of the hour.
Where does the time fly? It's crazy.
I cherish this hour every month, and I look forward to it every month. And as does our audience, because it keeps growing, clearly. And so thank you guys for always tuning in and being a part of this, both on and off the show, and being a part of my broader network. Dan, what's the biggest piece of advice you can give the audience? And I'm going to bring it back since Saul introduced it, 90 episodes ago. What's the one book you're going to recommend to the audience?
So
advice in the book.
So my advice in book, well, I can be simple. The best book I've ever read besides the Bible for me is the Doris Kearns Goodwin Team of Rivals, which is just, Abraham Lincoln and how he became president, and then how he brought in people that were his rivals, and he was able to utilize their abilities to help the country. And it's one of the best leadership books you could ever read. So that's the book I suggest. And I want to highlight that it's our 250th anniversary, Andreas, of America, and we need to make sure to promote that, because there you go. That's my front yard. That's my front yard with my God Bless America 15-foot blow up flag. But it is so true. We forget how incredible this country is, where people can come from absolutely nothing. And if you're another country and you come from nothing, you're going to be stuck in that spot forever. Not in America. You can do some incredible things. And I just want to make sure everybody supports and protects and really promote and promulgate our 250th anniversary.
That's fantastic. Thank you for the book. Thank you for the advice. I know our audience thanks you. Saul, over to you.
Yeah, so I'm not going to recommend any one book, but I'm going to say that, and I've said this for years, that if you're looking for something to do, take a course in real estate principles. Read a book about real estate principles, because even if you don't get into the real estate business, and of course we don't want everybody to get in the real estate business, it's competitive enough as it is, but you'll use the information that you can get out of a real estate principles book for the rest of your life. Because part of what you need to do to build wealth for yourself and for your family is you need to buy real estate. And the more you know about it, the better off you're going to be. So go to the community college, sign up for a course, go online, sign up for a course, go to the library, borrow a book on real estate principles, whatever you can do to learn more about the fundamentals and basics around what is ownership? What are encumbrances? What kind of math? V equals IR, right? We talked about current and right. So what are the things, small things you can learn that are going to help make you better and more confident in the purchase of real estate? And then buy and hold. See that car wash behind me? We bought it in 1979.
And it almost became an apartment building. Might one day become an apartment.
We thought that it would. We thought that someday somebody would offer us money to build an apartment building, and that still might happen because of density bonuses that you get if you. It's walkable. What you can't see in that picture is all the restaurants and all of the conveniences that are right around that. Across the street is the post office. So someday
somebody will. Someday more people, right? Eventually, it will happen. They're not making it
won't be me, but it'll be somebody. Maybe it'll be you, Andreas.
It's on the wrong coast for me. I like where I'm at, but you never know. We can have that conversation if you're thinking about selling. The one piece of advice I'm going to give the audience. Well, I like the one piece of advice I'm going to give my audience. Don't believe the good you see with your eyes, and don't believe the bad you don't see. Don't listen to what's out there. Don't get caught doom scrolling or anything else. Believe in the good. Don't believe the bad unless you see it with your two eyes. As far as a book, Intelligent Investor, Benjamin Graham, would be a book. But better yet, since some of you, half of you, most of you, I don't know how many of you are on AI, using AI, but go into Perplexity, go into Gemini, go somewhere and start asking questions of it. Or take your thought process, ask the question, let it come back with an answer, and start to teach yourself that way, right? It's here to stay. It is incredibly powerful, especially if you're learning how to do something that's just at the edge of your comfort zone. And I say edge of your comfort zone because still to date, if you ask it something you know nothing about and take what it says as gospel, you may in fact be hallucinating and not know what you're saying and be very, very incorrect today. So I want to thank our audience. I want to thank my co-hosts. I want to thank everyone who supports this country, supports NAR, supports everything we do in our day-to-day. I want to again give thanks and thoughts and prayers with Dan's mother.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
Yeah. And Saul, thanks for all you do. And John Riley retired, as I understand it. I believe I saw that release. You need a new real estate attorney.
There he is in the car wash. If you see that man standing, that's John Riley.
His partner, John Riley, who I had the pleasure of meeting, is now retired and living it up in Hawaii. Thanks for our audience. Tune in next month. Do rate and review us. It really does help. And that last tidbit, AI out there indexing and searching and so on and so forth. If you're not asking AI who to use and how to use and what professional to use, and in opposite to that, if you don't have your audience, your clients out there giving testimonials, Google reviews, AI can only judge you by the news that's printed and the reviews that are given. Otherwise, you're just in the noise. So that's how you become a signal through the noise. Get those that you've done well by to be a proof stack to review you, and make sure you use good old-fashioned press, right? Thank you. See you next month.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Roundtable, powered by CRECo.ai, your source for the latest in real estate and technology. For past episodes, sector interviews, and more great content, follow us on all social media and YouTube at CRECollaborative. You can also find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. Please like, subscribe, and share. It really does help. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next Real Estate Roundtable.